I decide how much time I want to give the university for how much money they're paying me.
Welcome to Leaving Academia, Becoming a Freelance Editor, the podcast. I'm your host, Paulina Cossette. In 2019, I was a political science professor who was fed up with the stress and hostility of academia, not to mention the low pay. I left my tenure-track job and went from barely surviving to thriving as a freelance academic editor. Today, I own Acadia Editing Services, an editing and coaching business that brings in 6 figures a year. In this podcast, I'll discuss the challenges of academia, what academic editing involves, and what life as a freelancer looks like. If you're willing to jump outside your comfort zone, it is possible to find joy, true flexibility, and a profitable and rewarding career as an academic editor. Thanks for listening. Today on the podcast, I have Kimberly Hale, who is a professor and a business owner. And Kimberly is going to talk with us today about what led her to start her business, how she runs it as a side hustle alongside her faculty role, and she's going to dive deep into how she operates and plans writing retreats for scholars and faculty. Welcome to the podcast, Kimberly.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be here today.
So tell us, let's start with, what do you do as an academic? Tell us about your background and your role and all of that.
Okay, great. So by training and in my undergrad, I'm an American Sign Language and English interpreter. And so I worked as a professional for many years and then decided that I wanted to teach other people to be an interpreter. And that's what led me to become a faculty member. And many people in my field have the same experience. They're professionals and they think, I want to help other people do this. And then they get the job and they realize there's a lot more to being a faculty member than just teaching people how to do what you do, especially if you're on the tenure track, which eventually I was, tenured associate professor, now a new job, and tenure track faculty again. So, but currently what I study in my position is teaching or working and learning in higher education. Specifically, I focus on interpreter education, but more generally, the faculty experience of how do we teach and how do we survive what is academia and all the pressures that go along with that, which then leads into my business part of my life. So some of the things that I learn through my research, I also apply to helping faculty manage their lives and not feel quite so chaotic in that process. I started the coaching side business because I wanted to help people who were like me, who got into academia and then were like, what am I even supposed to be doing here? Because there's a lot of figure it out for yourself and not a lot of oversight and direct. No boss is telling you what to do every day. Every faculty member knows that now, but they might not have realized it when they first started. So I try and help ease that transition for people so that they can get promotion, tenure, or whatever their specific path leads to.
So when I was on the tenure track, I felt like I was drowning. And so I'm curious, what led you to feel called to start the business? And also, how do you manage it along with the faculty role?
That is a great question. So I think the main thing that led me to start it was seeing how many new faculty members feel overwhelmed and uncertain and just not sure that they're doing what they need to be doing on that specific day. Because like I said, there's a lot of autonomy and help along the way. And in my field of interpreting, most of the academics that are teaching in interpreting programs have a master's degree. And many of them now are working on doctorates, but when I started, almost everyone had a master's degree, but some of them were in tenure track positions. So they didn't have dissertations to then launch their writing academic publishing career. So I really wanted to help people in my field. And then what I found was academics across the board kind of feel the same way when they're thrown into these new positions. So I want to kind of be the person that I wish I had alongside me going, yes, everyone feels this way. It's okay. And then helping figure out how to navigate. Now, how I manage my business on the side of my faculty job. Over the years, I have built lots of systems and processes that contain my job. I decide how much time I want to give the university for how much money they're paying me. And I try and keep that at about 40 hours a week. And I then have to allocate time. So if I only want to spend 20 hours a week doing teaching related tasks, that means I have to budget how much time I'm going to spend grading, how much time I'm going to spend planning classes, and all of those things. So I really constrain my time to those things. I also, it fits easier because what I research relates to what I do as my side business. So in that way, it feels synergistic to be working on my research, thinking about how that applies to supporting faculty who are newer in their careers. So it feels like one big whole thing as opposed to this extra thing on top of my faculty job.
That's really interesting. I want to pull out two things that you just said because I think they're really important. The first one is that, as you were talking, you were describing what sounded to me like teaching other people the solutions to problems that you overcame yourself. So you said you struggled as a junior faculty member learning how to strategize and to prioritize work and how to fit everything in. And you came up with some solutions for that. And now you're teaching that to other people, not only through your research and your faculty role, but also through your coaching. And I want to highlight that for folks listening because that is what I always encourage people to focus on when they think about how to start a business. Maybe we feel like we're not qualified to be a coach, but you really don't have to be an expert in a particular area to help someone else solve their problems. And so, if there is some strategy that you've come up with through your own struggle, and you could teach that to other people and help them be successful, that's really all that you need to do to get started in your coaching business. And then the second thing that I want to highlight is what you said about, I think you said you decided that you were only going to give the university as much time as they were actually paying you for. And I think that's a really powerful statement because it totally flips the narrative of what we've been told in academia for so long, that we're supposed to give and give and give, and we're all a family and we all take care of each other. But then when it comes time for the university to take care of you, they often are not there for you. So I hope everybody listening will take that away from this conversation because whatever job you're in, it is a job. It's, maybe we think of it as a calling. We think of it as, we're out here saving the world. But ultimately, we are in a capitalist system and it's a job. And you really don't have to give your entire life and every ounce of your energy to an institution. You could decide to only give as much as they're paying you for.
Yes. And some of my clients that I've worked with, when I ask them, how many hours do you want to give your university for what they're paying you for? Some of them say, I'll work 50 hours a week for them and no judgment. Okay, great. That's wonderful. If that's what you decide you want to give to your employer. I personally am like, you get 40 hours, dude. That's all you're getting from me because I do have other things in my life, like most of us. I have family, I have my knitting hobby, I have all kinds of things I want to be doing that aren't university related. So I do give my all when I'm giving them their 40 hours. I give what I've got for them, but I don't let it take over the whole rest of my life. And so I'll just say, like, I start with here's some things that work for me, but then also keeping that open mind for your people starting businesses that some people's minds are different than yours. So helping them with starting points to test out and evaluate and like, does that work for me? And then if not, helping them brainstorm and come up with other solutions to whatever their particular problem is. Because my problems as an academic, when I was early in my career and I had 3 toddlers, then I worked part-time hours 7 days a week rather than full-time hours 5 days a week because that fit better with my schedule. And some people are like, well, I don't work on the weekends. At that time of my life, I was like, this works better for me. But for the last several years, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing anything for the university on the weekends because my kids are big and I don't need to manage them during the day as much as I used to. So I try and adjust, whatever the approach is for the specific person and what their needs are for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you set the boundaries as long as you're setting them in a way that works for you and your life so that you have knitting hobbies or
Right.
art or travel or whatever, because we're not we're not designed to just be solely focused on our work. We deserve to have joy outside of the institution.
Yes.
I love that so much. So tell us more about the business. What exactly do you do and how do you structure it? What does it all look like?
Okay. So it's primarily a coaching business. So I am certified coach through International Coaching Federation. So most of what I do is one-on-one coaching with individuals, helping them figure out their systems and processes and what's important for them and their jobs. I also provide co-working opportunities. So a group of people just hop on Zoom and say, what are you going to work on right now? Awesome, let's get to it. I set a timer and we all just work. And in the end, we give everybody high fives for the work they got done during that session. I offer some events like writing retreats, and mostly like that's kind of the umbrella of what I do. Did you want to know more about the structure of my business, or just like that's what I do?
I'm just curious about the different offers, I guess. So it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like you have the one-on-one coaching that mainly focuses on faculty success. And you had mentioned when we were talking before about doing a little bit of editing as well, and then also the writing retreats. Are those the
Mm-hmm.
three main components?
Yes, I have a few little like courses, small little things that target specific supports that people might need that are kind of do it yourself. Here's the information, you can figure it out. But those are kind of the main areas. And for the editing, because I am an academic and working on my own papers and so forth, I really focus on helping people get their promotion applications. And I say that promotion applications because so many people are not in tenure track positions anymore, but they still can apply for a promotion to associate teaching professor and so forth. So, or people on the tenure track. So I help people like get those documents just right so that when they submit them, they can feel good that they've put their best foot forward, and it should hopefully go smoothly through the rest of the process. We can't always predict what those committees are going to do, but I help people get it the best it can be when they submit it.
And you mentioned getting the coaching certification. I'm always curious because what we do in academia is really technically mentoring and advising. It's not coaching per se, which has a bit more defined, I guess, it's more of a defined concept. It has in the professional coaching space, there is sort of a definition of what coaching is, and it's
Mm-hmm.
different from instruction or mentorship. And so I'm curious, as faculty, do you think everybody who's going into coaching should get get coaching training, or what would you say about that?
I think that's a great question because when I first heard about coaching in the academic space, I had someone who called herself a coach and coached me. And now that I have gone through ICF training, I'm like, oh, what that person was doing was not exactly coaching by their definition, but it is a definition that many people use. I would say, as someone who is a certified coach, I'm like, if you're coaching, call it coaching. And if you're doing something else, call it something else. So coaching is a partnership with the person to help them with the assumption that eventually people can come to what's best for them. They might need help brainstorming or questions to help them figure out a path, but they're the ones making the decisions. Whereas mentoring is often, I've been where you are. Let me help you know exactly where to go next. Or here's my advice on what you should do in this specific situation. But coaches don't give advice. They help you figure out what parameters are important to you and what choices you might make. And then kind of make that decision. We don't make it for you. We help you make that decision. So I would say having coach training is a great tool for helping you think about what kinds of questions could I ask this person that would help them achieve their goals with and not that I know best, right? But I'm often how people get to my coaching is I give an idea and they're like, yeah, I see how that would work for you, but here's why it doesn't work for me. And then it's like, okay, well, now we can go with like, what are the parameters around your life that are important? What are your values? They're different from mine. What are the constraints in your life? So I think coach training helps with thinking of what are the questions I can ask them that will help them think about something differently that can land them on a decision or an action step for their next part of the process in reaching whatever their goal is, which could be promotion. It could be just keep my head down and keep my job until my kids are old enough and I can get a different job or, whatever it is.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that difference because I do think it's important. And so it sounds like maybe, if somebody out there is considering being, say, a dissertation coach or something, right? Maybe they probably already have the skills if they've been a dissertation advisor. They probably have the skills to help a student say wrap up their last semester and finish their
Hmm.
dissertation and graduate. And but really, what they would be doing without the coaching training is more like being a dissertation advisor, a dissertation mentor, or something like that. Dissertation support. I don't know. You'd have to
Consult.
come up with a.
Yeah, consultant is often what I hear. I have a colleague who has a dissertation coach, and I would say what that person is doing is consulting. They talk a lot about methods. And when I coach people, we talk about methods. We talk about what's important about this. What are you trying to communicate? But I'm not saying, here's the method that works best for your situation. So I'm not the content expert in their area or in their methods or whatever, but I can help them get over the hump of, I just have to get this written. Okay, we can work on that for solutions for them. But I would say a lot of people who are dissertation coaches are offering more of a consulting role, like here's how to help, and editing, and often those things go hand in hand. But yes, there are differences, and I think I'm an interpreter, so words are important to me, right? So I like to separate those out and have distinctions so that people can better understand what they're getting. But I think more importantly is if you're clear, like when people come to me, I'm like, I'm not going to help you decide what method, I'm not going to tell you what methods you should use. I'm going to ask you questions so you can dig in and figure out what methods you should use, or who your audience is, which journal you should submit to, that kind of thing. I'll help you get there, but I'm not going to recommend specific things to you. Whereas a consultant, they're going to take what you tell them and then give you some opinion or advice or potential recommendations on what you could do next.
Yeah.
I
So
think as
maybe
long as it's,
it's a situation where if somebody's just getting started, they could take on their first few clients, get a sense of whether or not they really want to do this full time or grow the business. And yes, you can be successful as an academic coming out of that experience and applying it in this new context. But maybe down the road, if what you want to offer is more of an exploratory coaching situation or relationship, then it would be worth it to invest in some good coach training and to make sure that you're providing that level of support to your clients.
mhm. And I think you're right. And I know part of your point is academics have a lot of skills and knowledge that we can bring to the table. And of course, that is important. And people need training, they need consultation. People need all different kinds of services and supports as academics or researchers and whatnot. So I think, yes, like get started doing what you do and you think you're going to do. And then you realize, oh, I really like this part. And many of us that got into academia because we want to teach, then we want to do trainings and so forth. So I do most of my trainings and that kind of thing on YouTube and in my newsletters and places like that. But in our one-on-one calls, it's a springboard for helping people get where they want to go. And I feel like that takes pressure off of me, right? Because I'm not making decisions or recommendations. So, as a person who wants other people to be responsible for their actions and not me responsible for their actions, that feels really good to me. But other people might want a more direct responsibility and help for people.
Yeah, that's a really great distinction. You're not their dissertation advisor, you're a guide who is supporting them through the process.
Right.
Well, thank you for going down that rabbit hole with me because I get that question a lot about do I need an editing certificate? Do I need to get coaching training? And that's what I usually say is, just start first. Just see if this is even a thing that you want to do and commit to for a while. And then if you decide you need more training, you can absolutely do that. So I appreciate hearing your feedback on that as a trained coach. Let's shift now. Let's talk about these writing retreats. Why don't you tell us first, what does a writing retreat do? What can people get out of participating in a writing retreat? And then maybe we can also discuss the how you go about planning and organizing them.
Yeah. Sure. I think the most important thing that people can get out of a writing retreat is dedicated time away from the distractions of regular life. And that can be distractions of student email, that can be distractions of family members, or just you're at home and there's laundry to be done. So I do host virtual retreats. I don't find them quite as effective for the participants as on-site retreats, but I would say the biggest benefit is just time to think and focus without having to worry about the other things in life while you're on the retreat. So there are a lot of different kinds of writing retreats. Mine is cozy weekend with friends in supportive environment to reach your goals. So for my writing retreats, I rent a house that has enough bedrooms. And let me tell you, this is not as easy as it sounds. Bedrooms, okay, we're good. But then with enough table and flat surfaces to put a laptop on. Because lots of places say they sleep 20. Okay, I don't want 4 people in one room, but they say they sleep, 8, 9, 10, whatever. But then you look and there's one little table with 4 chairs. That is not a writing retreat space. But I want cozy, homey vibes. So we just feel comfortable and no one feels uptight. In my writing retreats, we get together and have some like intention setting. So goal setting, like what are we doing here for this week or this specific writing session? And groups, community and support, high fives all around when you get something done or you just focused for those 20 minutes or however long you're writing. I don't offer specific training during most of the sessions, but if everyone's like, could you please tell us how to do this? Then I do those kind of things. But the general vibe I'm going for in my retreats is cozy, comfortable with colleagues for a purpose, but we're not working 24/7. We're still taking time off and relaxing in between there. So cozy, comfortable places with plenty of flat surfaces and chairs to put a laptop and get some work done, hopefully indoors and outdoors.
Yeah, it sounds like it's almost like an opportunity for people to create space for themselves to be productive, but in a way that isn't stressful, to set aside family life or other responsibilities or whatever, prioritize their work, prioritize their mental health, and be in community with others who are going through the same things.
Yes, that is exactly what it is. A comfortable space away that leaves some blank space without other things encroaching on that time.
And so if somebody came to you and said, "Kimberly, I would really love to host a writing retreat. What should I do?" What would be some tips that you would give them? Maybe potential challenges to look out for aside from, making sure there's enough writing space, which I agree is very important. And I've seen some of those like Airbnbs where you get a little end table and that's it.
Mhm.
So what would you say to somebody who's wanting to curate this kind of space for people?
hmm I think as a coach, the first thing I would do would be ask a question. I would ask, like, what is the vibe you're going for? Because some writing retreats are very focused on, I'm going to teach you tips and tricks and tools while you're here so you can be a better writer. Some writing retreats are like, pamper yourself when you're not writing, and others have different vibes. Others are more community, or let's go to a cool place and do some writing, and then in the evenings we can go sightseeing or whatever. So I think first the question is like, what is the vibe and the environment that you're trying to build? And then you can build from around there. I think people should know that the hard part is getting people interested and wanting to sign up, especially if they don't know you very well yet. But figuring out the food situation is something to like really keep in mind. And if you host a retreat at a retreat center or a bed and breakfast and things like that, then you can maybe work out catering and that kind of thing. Or is this going to be a potluck and everyone like cooks together, communal kitchen, we all cook and serve each other, or the host is the one cooking and providing all of the food. So I think, and some of that is just my own personal things, like feeding my children was one of the biggest challenges when they were small, right? So for me, thinking I've got to feed these people if I bring them together was kind of a big one for me. So I think really like those logistic kind of things for me are the important ones. Like, what's the vibe you're going for? And then how can you find a location that suits that vibe. Like my locations are low key. There are things to do if someone wanted to go, but like I'm not going for some fancy place. We're just like, let's go. Act like we're hanging out with our friends for the weekend and get some writing done. So to me, that's the big one. Like, what are you doing? And then how are you going to feed people? How are they going to get where you need them to be? I pick people up from the airport because people aren't from around here. So, and then how are you going to get there? And then pricing it so that it covers the place you're going to be, it covers the food that you're going to need to provide, and then covers your time if you're trying to do that. I don't actually try and earn money for myself at my writing retreats. I just try and bring us together and cover the expenses of what it takes to run a retreat.
So what do you do for the food?
So for the food, my husband is an amazing person and used to be a chef, and my oldest child has gone to culinary school. So they plan my menu. And I ask the people, I give a survey before they get there. I'm like, okay, tell me all of your food preferences. They also tell me when to pick them up from the airport, but the kind of like, what's a snack or a drink that they love and that they really can't do without for 4 days. And then did they have any food that they just don't like? Is there anything that they don't want? And then I gave that to my husband and he made a menu and then he did the shopping and he either comes and cooks or he's like, here is this set of things and here's how to make it very simply. So we have breakfast is kind of a la carte, like there's all the kinds of things that people said they wanted and they just come and get that. Lunch kind of the same, but a real like family style dinner where people sit around and eat together. And my husband, last time in this coming up time, cooks dinner for us. It's very nice.
That
Yeah.
sounds delightful. My
Yeah.
husband is a baker, but we both cook, but yeah, he does a lot of baking. So that's great that you have a husband and a child who are
Yes.
chefs. So it sounds like, when somebody enrolls, the cost in the investment includes the stay at the house and the
Mm-hmm.
food, and then also you're picking them up from the airport and bringing them there. Have you
Mm-hmm.
ever done a retreat away from home, or are they
Um,
always where you live?
so I've never done one further than the place I usually go is about an hour and a half from me. So close enough that we can get there easily, but it's just closer to the bigger airport, which is why I picked that town instead of my own town. But in the future, I'm considering ones further away that would feel a little more away from home for me, but that adds a lot of logistic challenges that I don't think are probably worth it because I don't go to the retreat when I'm there. I'm there. So I don't need a place that's fancy and nice for me otherwise. So I haven't really done them, but I know some people host retreats in other locations, like partly because they're like, I want to go there. And of course, you can do your travel to get there as part of your business expenses. So that would work. At the moment, I haven't done them. I do them just about an hour and a half from where I am, closer to the airport.
And how do you find people, or how do you market the retreats? Is it, well, I guess you probably is local, like colleagues at your university, or nationally, or what's your strategy for marketing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm glad you brought up this idea that I might market it to local people. So, as a reminder, I have a full time job and I work for a public state university. So I absolutely cannot market it to people that go to my university unless they want to pay with their personal dollars because my university has policies, the whole like state regents, whatever, has policies, so people don't take advantage and you know what I mean? Like don't line your business pockets with state funds. So I happened to have a colleague come to my last retreat and it was a lot of a mess. So in terms of getting paid because they wanted to use institutional funds. So I don't say that to say my university did anything wrong in that regard or that we did. It was you can make that how you want it. Okay. It is difficult if you work for an institution to be paid in another way by the same institution. So I don't market it to the people at my university. If I have colleagues that I know and I tell them I'm hosting a retreat, but if they want to come, they have to use their personal funds to do so. So I don't do a lot of marketing to the local, especially the university where I work. So I share it on my newsletter. I post it on my social media. I share it in some groups that I'm in on Facebook that is full of academic people. And then word of mouth, I ask other people, like, hey, do you have anyone where you work that would be interested in attending a writing retreat? And ask them to share that information. Because I focus a lot on interpreter educators, I, for this go round, sent an email to every department head that runs a 4-year interpreting program and told them that I was offering the retreat as well. So do those emails get through the spam filters for university? I don't know, because it's pretty strong, but that's another way, just direct contacting people to let them know that it's available.
Yeah. And then another question just on the logistics for folks who are thinking through how to plan something like this. If most of the people who attend from other universities are using institutional funds, so I, as an editor, right, I'm familiar with you.
Mm-hmm.
You can become listed with a university as a vendor or whatever they call it. You fill out a W-9 or whatever forms they want you to fill
Mm-hmm.
out, and then usually they mail you a check or, do a direct deposit. How do you handle the timing of that? So where do you set like the deadline that I have to be paid by your university by such and such date in order for you to participate? Or how do you navigate that? Because I know it can be a little bit complex sometimes.
Mhm. So I've done it a couple of different ways with different people. Some people use their own personal funds to pay for it and then give the receipt to their institution and get reimbursed for it in that way. In other cases, I send an invoice and sometimes they send me a purchase order that tells me they promise they'll pay me, and I take that as good enough. Because universities often, anyone who doesn't already know, universities can often take a really long time to pay. In other cases, the university purchaser, whoever's buying it for the faculty member who's ever registering them, will just use their P card or their Pro card, whatever it's called at their institution, their own little credit card for their office. And sometimes they'll use that. But usually, because the writing retreat is over $600, they're like, no, thanks, we're going to fill out all of this paperwork. So if I have a commitment from a faculty member and they show me some evidence that they have approval to spend money on it, then I will let them register and come with the expectation that they will pay, and I will send an invoice to their institution and the link where they can just directly pay if they want to pay that way. But usually I get direct deposits from universities when I do it that way.
Yeah. And my experience has been, like you said, sometimes it can take a long time. Sometimes there can be a lot of paperwork involved, but I've never personally either had a problem with getting paid. And I
Right.
think most people tend to be honest. They don't commit to things that they're not willing to follow through with, unless
Right.
there's like some kind of emergency at the last minute or something.
Right. Right.
Well, thank you for sharing all these details. You have a writing retreat coming up in March. So tell us about that and tell us if people are interested in joining, where should they go and find information about that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, the March writing retreat, I kind of schedule my writing retreats the same way. So, we arrive in the afternoon, in this case, for my people that use English. If you use ASL, just put these dates as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but we'll talk about the people who use English. So, arrive on Thursday afternoon, get settled, get comfortable, have snacks, eat lunch, whatever, depending on when your flights were. In the evening, we have a group coaching session and then dinner together and then social, just hanging out, getting to know each other, feeling comfortable. Then Friday and Saturday we rotate between blocks of having meals, having quick check-in coaching sessions and check-ins, and actual writing sessions that are about an hour and a half each, and those go throughout the whole day. Then we have a meal together and hang out and chill and relax in the evening. Unless someone wants to do extra writing, they're welcome to do whatever they want. It's like on your own, we're all here together, but you don't have to be with us if you don't want to be. So that's kind of how the system goes. And then Sunday morning, we have a writing session and then an ending coaching session, and then lunch and drop off at airports and so forth. So that's March 19th through 22nd is coming up. And if someone wanted to learn more, they can go to facultysuccesscoach.com/retreat. And that will redirect to the sales page with all the information. My tagline is come with the plan, leave with the draft. And people who have come to previous retreats have finished book proposals. They've written chapters of books. They've finished up articles. They've written the final reports for the funder, like they finished a grant and they have to write the report for the funder. So people work on different kinds of projects during the writing retreat. Sometimes people are like, I've got these 5 projects going on, and they just kind of hop back and forth between them during the retreat. So it really is open to whatever people feel would be most helpful for them to focus on and spend their time on. Some people spend most of the time reading things that they need to read in order to get the writing done. So it really is very flexible on how people want to focus their energy during that time. If any of your listeners would like to get a discount on this retreat that's coming up in March, they can use discount code NL2026 for $300 off registration.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Happy to do it.
I will include the links to your website and to the retreat page in the show notes. If anybody is interested in working with Kimberly as an editor, as a one-on-one faculty coach, or attending her upcoming writing retreat in March, please get in touch. Thanks, Kimberly.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to seeing you around on the interwebs. If any of your listeners would like to get a discount on this retreat that's coming up in March, they can use discount code NL2026 for $300 off registration.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Happy to do it.
If you're unhappy in academia and you think you might be a good editor or writing coach, check out my course, Becoming an Academic Editor. This digital course is paired with a 12-week group coaching program to support you through your decision to leave academia or not, and to start building a profitable and rewarding academic editing business. Learn more by going to acadiaediting.com/become an editor. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time.